Well, over the next 2 days, we are going to be bombarded with reminders of Amazon's retail dominance, their Prime Day event beginning today, something that forces a lot of retailers to up their own game. Of course, all of this happening at a time when we've got new evidence of how stretched Canadians are financially, a new survey suggesting a potential dip in holiday spending this year. And we also highlighted the fact that there are many Canadians who say in another survey they're just $200 away from insolvency. Let's talk about how the retail sector has been navigating all of this. Farla Efros is the president of HRC Retail Advisory and helps to advise leading retailers around the world. Farla, thanks as always for being with us. Let's start with Prime Day and within your industry. I mean, how significant has this become?
I think Prime Day has become extremely significant, and I would actually rename this. A lot of what you're hearing now is that we're calling it Amazon Black Friday. I think it was very strategic for them to, in a sense, push it to when they did push it, because what I do think is that there's been an incredible amount of pent-up demand, obviously, with stores being open, stores being closed, stores now, some of them are starting to close again. And I do think it's just such a great opportunity to get an early read on the holidays, which we know are obviously going to be quite challenging for a lot of Canadian families.
Yeah, and I guess I'd heard some people make the argument that by having Prime Day, they usually would not have it at this time of year, but the pandemic hit. But then this was going to be used as a way to get people purchasing some of that stuff they might be purchasing in a few weeks' time, just so they can get the logistics under control, get those boxes to your front door. Yes. I mean, how important is it to execute on that front if you're going to be an e-commerce player?
I think that is probably the one thing that customers are looking for and consumers are looking for, is that notion of reliability. And the one thing that we can say about Amazon during this whole pandemic is that they have been unbelievably reliable to their consumers. Look, everyone has a blip, of course, but a lot of these other retailers, it just March 17th, that famous date where everything just, shut down, it just happened. And a lot of retailers were still spending their time kind of having to chase back and really to kind of pivot to focus on their e-commerce business, where Amazon was just there. I mean, it was that solid player that continuously delivered to their customers in a very reliable fashion, in a very quick fashion. And I think that the reality is that, especially from parents and what everything is going on right now with the notion of possibly even more closures coming, I think that this is going to be a holiday of overcompensation. So if parents can, they're going to try to overcompensate for the loss that a lot of their children have had, which could be loss of a graduation, loss of birthday party, loss of Halloween. And so I do think there's going to be a lot of gift giving, just to kind of, from a pent up demand, and just kind of make something of something that's so unnatural of what's going on right now.
Well, this is a really interesting point you're getting into, Farla, because we just did a segment. It's a big day for Apple. They're going to unveil new products. We're talking about how people have been buying, more computers, more iPads because they're staying home. You're alluding to, the value of a gift to your kids if they're feeling down because of the pandemic. Yeah. We've talked about everybody going to the Home Depots and the Lowe's of the world. What's your sense of what when the tally comes in on what the spending's going to look like in Canada this holiday season? We alluded to that survey earlier that suggested maybe it's down a lot this year, but maybe it's not.
So I think it's going to be down because obviously when you look at what unemployment looks like, and I think that with the announcement that just came last week, I think it was one more of a reality check. And what I mean by that is that for consumers, where we thought maybe we were in a sense, starting to be in that recovery mode with that announcement that came, that all of a sudden restaurants and gyms and the like were suddenly closed, I think people are going to sit back and go, savings is obviously going to be that important. But I do think where they're going to spend their money in terms of, I think it's really going to be two categories, frankly. I think it's going to continue on that notion of home improvement, because I think the one thing that we've come to the conclusion is that we're probably going to be, so there's been some announcements, and you saw that some companies are saying, that's it, you're just working from home till who knows when. So I think that the notion for home offices, the notion for decks, so I do think that whole piece of home improvement is going to continue. And I think the technological piece are going to continue to grow, where, everyone in the household is going to need either an iPod, a computer, a phone, whatever, and very good internet connection, because I think this is going to be our new normal until there is some vaccine, if there will even be a vaccine at some point.
Right. So, Farla, before I let you go, I think the general takeaway is that it's Amazon's game and everybody else is just swimming to stay alive. But have you seen evidence during this pandemic in this country that there are retailers that can absolutely continue to compete, reinvest, or reinvent themselves?
Yes. So I would say it's definitely it's Amazon's game for certain. And I think really coming very strong behind is really the Walmarts and the Targets and the Best Buys. I think they're just doing phenomenal jobs as well. And I do think even all of the restoration hardwares are all starting to create new loyalty programs. So I definitely think there will continue to be bankruptcies, because that's just the world that we live in. I think there'll continue to be the great divide. But I think, again, this holiday purchasing pattern will be very different. And if you think about it, Amazon Prime today has 150 million members. On average, it spends between $119 a year. $15 billion of revenue that they carry just to get free shipping. So that's really going to stand for something for consumers' mind, even when they're making choices of where they spend their dollars.
Helpful context. Hey, Farla, thanks a lot. Farla Airfos with the latest on the Amazon and retail environment as we head into this holiday.